Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we conclude with Part 18, Chang Shambhala, the Sacred City, from the Adepts in the Eastern Esoteric Tradition, by Manly Palmer Hall. Part 2, the Arhats of Buddhism. Chang Shambhala, the Sacred City. No study of the esoteric hierarchy would be complete without a discussion of that mysterious land of quietude, to which occasional reference is made in books relating to Tibet. We cannot subscribe entirely to the enthusiasm of Nicholas Roerich, who refers to Chang Shambhala in his books Heart of Asia and Shambhala, as though the name of this kingdom of the Adepts were on the lips of every Lama and shaman from Turkestan to Peking. The judgment of less emotional scholars would sustain the conclusion that Shambhala is referred to only on comparatively rare occasions, and presents a number of difficulties even to the Tibetan mind. Certainly it is held in high veneration, like the secret and sacred places mentioned in other Eastern scriptures and commentaries. It is quite possible that Professor Roerich contacted learned monks who understood the esoteric empire, but it is also highly probable that he contacted other less learned lamas and laymen, whose imaginations were considerably in excess of their erudition. We may also be forgiven if we suspect that Chang Shambhala has proved useful in the political sorcery for which Tibetan diplomacy is justly famous. In a land dominated by a traditional belief in the miraculous and permeated with prophecies concerning the coming incarnations of celestial bodhisattvas, legendary easily gets out of hand and leads to conclusions impressive to the uninformed, especially to those Occidentals to whom Tibet is synonymous with esotericism. It is not our intention to discredit the mysteries of Chang Shambhala, but merely to point out that the Adept Kingdom is as little known and understood by most of the Lamas of Lhasa as it is by the white unbelievers from beyond the seas. Questions naturally come to the minds of the uninitiated. Is Shambhala an actual country now existing to the north of Tibet? Or did such a place exist in the remote past, to survive only as a legend? According to Emil Schlagentweit, a mystical system of yogic disciplines called the Kala Chakra, the cycle of time, is reported to have originated in the fabulous country of Shambhala, Tibetan Dejung, the source or origin of all happiness. Over a century ago, the mysterious European scholar Choma de Corres attempted to calculate the location of the earthly Shambhala. He placed the country beyond the Sirdarya, Jaxartes, between 45 degrees and 50 degrees north latitude. In his various works, Choma pointed out that according to northern mystical beliefs, the next great spiritual revelation, which was to succeed present-day Buddhism, was to come from Shambhala. Nicholas Roerich summarizes this account in his Altai Himalaya. While this was certainly the conviction of Choma de Corres, we do not have a great deal of supporting evidence from Tibetan sources for many of his conclusions. Rinchen Lamo in Way Tibetans gives us a summary of the tradition from the point of view of a native intellectual. Buddhism would gradually be overcome by alien religions until Shambhala, a great state to the north of Tibet, would take up arms and restore the faith throughout the world. This was revealed to Opami meditating in his second reincarnation, that is about 2 centuries ago. I gather from my Tibetan friends that Shambhala, which is unknown to our geography, does not mean necessarily to exist as a place in the material world, though it is encircled by walls of solid copper. From such mystic realms, incomprehensible to the ordinary mind, but presenting no difficulties of belief to Tibetan mysticism or to our modern spiritualism, came perhaps the angels of Mons. Ekai Kawaguchi, a Japanese Buddhist monk who lived in Tibet for about 3 years and prepared a highly readable account of his adventures, accumulated some opinions bearing upon Shambhala. The Reverend Kawaguchi believed that a Lama of the Yellow sect invented or revised the legend of the mythical land of the north. This same Lama localized Chang Shambhala in the region of Kashmir and preached that a mighty prince would rise in this district, conquer the world, and convert it to Buddhism. There was also a rumor in substance that the Siberian Lama Dorjiev had exploited this prophecy with consummate skill as a means of increasing Russian influence in Tibet. He declared that Russia was the Chang Shambhala of the old prophecies. The average Occidental is not overly well acquainted with trans-Himalayan geography, but Kashmir is to the south of Tibet, and Chang Shambhala is stated specifically to lie to the north, and the word Chang means north. Efforts to shift the kingdom of the Adepts to some obscure location in the vast wastes of Siberia have gained little, if any, popularity. Although there is a belief that Gesar Khan, the Tibetan culture hero, will be reborn in Chang Shambhala, it would be a mistake to assume that the references to Shambhala are an integral part of the Gesar epic. There is much to indicate a late association originating in the popular mind. Although it is generally assumed that the Shambhala story originated in India and is the Altai-Himalayan version of the mysterious Kailasa of the Hindus, these conjectures neither arise in nor lead to any certainties. It is equally possible that Chang Shambhala was inherited from the Bonpo, along with many other elaborate speculations and doctrines. Perhaps this northern paradise was converted or transformed from material belonging to the primitive faith of the wild mountain tribes. Various religious motions agitate the surface of orthodox Lamaism, much in the same way as schisms and sects confuse the issues of Western theology. We cannot blame the Asiatic for dreaming of utopia in the terms of his own requirements, while we, plagued with our problems, derive comfort and inspiration from daydreams about Shangri-La. Sir Thomas More had scarcely finished his utopia when serious-minded men discussed the advisability of fitting out an expedition to search for the Chancellor's phantom commonwealth. Enraptured lamas, meditating on the mysteries of their faith, might easily believe themselves transported to some ethereal region where the gods still walked with men. We can become very literal in our mystical speculations, and many accounts of Shambhala which pass as factual are really only the subtle substances of a dream. The Shambhala of the esoteric tradition is as little known to the lamas as it is to scholars of Europe and America. We are dealing with a problem involving extra-physical dimensions, both philosophical and geographical. Madame Blavatsky is emphatic in her statement that the Western paradise, or Western heaven of Amitabha, is not fiction located in transcendental space. It is an actual locality in the mountains of Asia, or more correctly, encircled by a desert within mountains. It is the residence of those masters of the esoteric wisdom who have attained the ranks of Lohans and Anagamins, adepts. It is referred to as Western simply from geographical considerations, and the great iron mountain girdle that surrounds the Avicii and the 7 lokas that encircle the Western paradise are very exact representations of well-known localities and things to the Eastern student of occultism. Here, as in several texts, the Western paradise and the northern land of quietude appear to be identical in meaning. In Chinese Buddhism, by the Reverend Joseph Edkins, who in turn quotes from the Chinese author San Qian Yi Su, appears the following: Bodhidharma brought from the Western heaven, Shambhala, the seal of truth, true seal, and opened the fountain of contemplation in the east. He pointed directly to Buddha's heart and nature, swept away the parasitic and alien growth of book instruction, and thus established the Tsangmen, or esoteric branch, of the system containing the tradition of the heart of Buddha. There is a persistent rumor that Bodhidharma, the celebrated patriarch of Zen, had reached Shambhala, but here, this land of the adepts is directly identified with the Western paradise of the Mahayana schools. Several recent writers who have mentioned Shambhala reveal their indebtedness to the books of Nicholas Roerich. Some years ago, the Tashi Lama, who is the spiritual head of the Tibetan theocracy, fled from Tashi Lunpo and took refuge in China. His departure was motivated by political agitation within the country. This is, writes Constance Bridge, according to prophecy, a sign that the era of Shambhala is at hand, that Tashi Lamas are sacrosanct among the Central Asian mystics. They are the great exponents of Kalachakra, the yoga of utilizing the high energies. The belief exists that the Tashi Lama, in his mysterious flight, visited the land of Shambhala, to which he has access. The uninitiated cannot know its exact situation, but the writings of mystics in many countries indicate its whereabouts through symbolism. The same author suggested in a general way that the Eastern reports intimate that Shambhala is in the region of the Karakorams. These mountains lie north of India and south of Lake Balkhash. Between this area and Lake Baikal lies Tanu Tuva, our autonomous Soviet Republic. The area under consideration is of immense size, extending from approximately 70 degrees to 110 degrees east longitude and from 30 degrees to 60 degrees north latitude. Most of the region is only slightly explored. While the glowing tower of Shambhala may stand on some remote peak of the north, the true significance of the sacred city or philosophic state, ruled over by Kulika Manjusri Kirti, Rigden Djepo, the adept king of the Wheel of Time, is actually the spiritual overstate, and Chang Shambhala is the banner city of the invisible government of the earth. It is the invisible nation, populated by a race of heroes who have emerged from the ordinary concerns of mortals and have journeyed along the red road of the north. The Tibetans believe that the northern lights shine from the ramparts of Shambhala. By this, they intend to imply that the land of the blessed will be understood by those who know the true meaning of the aurora borealis and the magnetic currents of our planet. The masters of the Tantric school of yoga understand which of the nerves of the human body are the paths of the north. Having mastered the esoteric doctrines of the Kala Chakra, they know that Atman is the perfect adept. It is the eternal self who rules over the dream of time and place from the shining tower of Chang Shambhala. The way to the throne of Rigden Djepo, adept of Shambhala and the coming king of the world, is inward and upward along the narrow path of the internal breath. Only the mystic, familiar with the old wisdom, can understand fully the Shambhala of the mind, which is discovered by an internal experience of consciousness. The world is bound together by a plan and purpose beyond the estimation of the average person. The adepts, initiates, and disciples of the secret schools, though scattered about, are all part of an empire of sages who are the servants of the Generalissimo of the world. This Generalissimo, as he was called by the Rosicrucian writer John Raiden nearly 300 years ago, is the Hierophant of the rites of Shambhala. It is his duty to bind together his empire of saints and sages, and to prepare the day when the ruler of the philosophic empire will become king of the whole world. Perhaps his advent is imminent, for they say that the banners of Shambhala show the king with 1 foot lowered from his lotus throne and placed firmly upon the high earth of Himavat. The horsemen of Shambhala ride through the air, bearing the messages of the King of Kings. Below, on the broad plains, the armies of light and darkness are battling for supremacy. In their extremity, men lift up their eyes unto the hills from whence cometh their help. Humanity waits the fulfillment of the promise of the King of Kings. The benign, all-compassionate Maitreya gazes down from his gilded throne. Suddenly, through the air flies an arrow inlaid with turquoise and feathered from the plumage of heavenly birds. This arrow is the sign of Gesa Khan, the warrior king of the north. The wind horses bear their prayers to the throne of Rigden Djepo. The banners of Shambhala are unfurled. The great drums rumble through the 7 towers of Asia. The army of the conqueror is come. All this is symbolism, myth and legend, old predictions and new prophecies. But beneath the fable lies the fact. The adepts and initiates and the esoteric schools guard the wheel of time. The wheel turns, men hear the doctrine, and in the day, be with us. The great school will return to the world, restoring the succession of the priest-philosopher kings, who by divine right and the divine will are the natural rulers of mankind. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.